said, look, New York is Rome. And he's right, I guess, in a way. I just like the suburbs of Rome, I guess.
John?
Now people are going to see me and go, oh, that's all he does. This is how I think of ideas. I'll sit out here for maybe 14 hours. Try to think of something. It's very difficult. I usually don't think of anything out here.
So, whether the chief reflector and certain other elements of the system fell or were broken in some way accidentally, or whether they were switched over on purpose as part of some natural cycle, either way, the result is the same. Physicality in time, with the fallen aspects introducing entropy, negative energy. They become like a weight on a wheel. The moon introduces the wobble, and from that wobble proceed the cycles of time. The tides, the seasons, age, birth and death, the menstrual cycle, and the long cycles, the precession of the equinox and of the ages. Without the cycle, there is no time. You just grow forever in the light. There is no loss of energy or aging or any other way to mark the precession of time, so it doesn't seem to exist. But once the cycle is introduced, things have to happen. There is an urgency, and competition is born from that. Like the urgency of plants to bloom when the days are shortening. And not only do we have the cycle of night and day and the seasons and years, but we also have a long cycle of entropy, where it's not just a perpetual cycle, but it's actually slowing and losing more energy each cycle. So it becomes like a game of musical chairs. It creates competition, because as the cycles progress, there is less and less energy to go around. So humans, in observing this, developed the theory of Darwinian evolution, survival of the fittest, natural selection. This is the system that the environment presents to men. That's what the data tells us. But the truth is, there's no winning inside the game, inside of time. No matter how much you dominate the game and evolve, you're still losing energy. You're still going to die inside the system. There's no way to fix the system from within the system. Nothing that seems like it would work to the human mind will ever work. Because the real problem is entropy, a loss of energy. And that is the nature of the system. It can't be changed by men. So what we envision as the solution, an excess of energy, cooperation, heaven, or the perfect future eternal civilization, cannot be evolved into. There's no physical path in time to get there. There is only less and less, no matter what we do. So the only way to get to that perfect civilization, heaven, must be to somehow transcend the entropy system, to end the game. Because you don't beat a game, a video game, or any other game by playing forever, getting better and better at the game into eternity. You beat the game by finishing it, by ending it. That's how you beat the game, by ending it. So it's like trying to control on a personal level your action from the level of action itself. It's impossible, ridiculous. It's funny to even think about. Like literally wrestling yourself physically. Like, I want to stop this action, compulsively eating. So one hand is picking up a hot dog and the other hand is literally wrestling it, punching your other arm and trying to prevent it from putting the hot dog in your mouth. It's like the metaphor of Jacob wrestling with the Lord in Genesis 32:24, where Jacob is all alone at night at the crossing of the river Jabbok, and the Lord comes to him literally as a wild man, a shadow man, naked, perfectly mirrored, perfectly matched with him in the night when he's all alone at the river. He sends all his stuff across, he sends his family across, and it's night and he's all alone. And the Lord comes to him. And it's not Esau, or if it is Esau, it's not Esau, it's the Lord. He has no name. It's like the shadow man. It's just like he asks him, what's his name? He says, why do you ask after my name? Like, he doesn't have a name. The highest thing that doesn't have a name. God doesn't have a name. Like the burning bush when Moses asked, but what's your name? Like, what's your name? He says, I am that I am. So, like, all the names that they call him are just like aspects of what we experience. But what it really is like, outside of this reality. It's indescribable, unknowable, really. So he comes to him as a shadow man, perfectly mirrored, perfectly matched with him, and literally physically wrestles with him all night because neither one can prevail. And as the day breaks, he says, let me go, and blesses him and gives him the name Israel. Thou hast power with God and man and has prevailed. And he called that place Peniel, for he saw God face to face, and his life was preserved. And Jacob called the name of that place Peniel. Hello, McFly. Anyone home? Hello, McFly. He called the name of that place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. And as he passed over Peniel, the sun rose upon him. The sun rose upon him, and he halted upon his thigh. He sent all that he had. He sent them over the brook and sent over that he had. And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of day. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh. For Jacob's thigh was out of joint, and he wrestled with him. Don't eat that hot dog. Don't eat that hot dog. Don't eat the hot dog. You see, the Lord showing him, like, you can't do that. Like, just ask me. I do it. Like I set up this whole thing to work like this. You idiot. Just listen to what I'll tell you what to do. Or just ask and I'll do it. Like, you don't know how to do it. It's not part of the game. And when he saw that he prevailed not, he touched the hollow of his thigh. He's tapping out. And the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint. And he wrestled with him. And he said, let me go, for the day breaketh. And he said, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me. And he said unto him, what is thy name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, thy name shall no more be called Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with God and with men, and hast prevailed. And Jacob asked him and said, tell me, I pray thee, thy name. And he said, wherefore is it that thou dost ask my name? Like, I am that I am. Don't ask me my name. And he blessed him there. And that's the whole point. Don't ask. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. And as he passed over Peniel, the sun rose upon him, and he halted upon his thigh. Tell you what, I don't remember them ever talking about this part of the Bible in CCD, or Catholic Catechism class. So this is the same metaphor. In the same way that you can't personally control your action from the level of action, you have to go a level above to thought. Your actions follow from your thoughts. So if your thoughts are incorrect, you have to go another level up to your emotions, because your thoughts issue from your emotions. And if your emotions are incorrect, then you must go another level up to your will, because your emotions issue from your will. But that is our highest command line, will. What you desire, what you focus on, your aim, what you set your eye upon, that's your will. Your eye. So what if your will is bad? Your why. So what if you want the wrong things? Then you have no recourse, no way to change your behavior and ease your suffering and grow. You want things that are harmful and you can't change that, because that's our highest command line. So then what do? If you're desperate enough and tired and tormented enough by yourself, you give up. You say, I don't care anymore. I don't care anymore. I give up. I don't care. I say, God, please help me. Jesus Christ, save me. Lord, please, I can't take it another second. I give up. And it works just like that. Just like that? But that's impossible. Exactly, it's impossible. When there's no possible logical recourse to a problem, no physical evolutionary path to a solution, it must be transcended. It must be resolved at a higher command level, which is literally outside of time, outside of this physical reality, and therefore above the ceiling of our comprehension. The physical ceiling of our comprehension. It's just physically our brains, the anatomy, our biology that we're contained in, our vessel. It's not capable of comprehending it. There's a limit to our comprehension, a finite limit to our understanding, due to our brain and all the limitations of the game, the physical reality. So how does that work? Who the fuck knows? Who the fuck knows? Who the fuck cares? Who cares? That's the point. It's above the ceiling of your possible physical comprehension. It's literally beyond your brain, which you currently occupy. So there's no point in wasting energy. You just trust that it works, and it works. It does. So that's the lesson that the Lord was teaching Jacob. You can't wrestle against action from action. And you can't change this reality from within this reality. You can't change time from within time. It's that third step again. You have to trust in the Lord, seek the Lord, because like Jacob's vision of the ladder with the angels ascending and descending, the ladder is infinite. You can't climb it. You need a miracle. And this represents the vision, the experience of wrestling with the shadow man, the Lord as a wild man, is after this vision. And this he sees in a dream. The ladder represents the layers or levels of reality or dimensions or limitation, or their levels of command, like the workings of reality. He sees the angels ascending and descending it. And they represent like these command lines, like in yourself, but also in reality, like thought, emotion, action, thought, emotion, will. But the ladder is infinite. But the Lord, and behold, the Lord stood above it. He's outside the ladder. He's separate, apart from the whole construct. He's standing above it. And then Christ says he is the ladder. Once we realize this, once we come into this, the next age or the end of time or whatever, then it'll all be working for us, serving us. Hereafter you shall see heaven open and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man. On Christ. That will be the ladder. They'll be going up and down on that, all the angles, all the levels of reality, traveling up and down. So, and Jacob learning that he can't physically wrestle this man, he can't wrestle this reality alone. He needs to somehow trust in this third step or aspect of his consciousness, which is outside this world, outside physicality, outside time. So like the trinary versus binary consciousness, observe, identify, choose, or observe, define, choose. Observe, identify, choose, or observe, define, choose. That third step, which is unexplainable, ineffable, defies the data set, human choice, free will. That third unexplainable step of choice in the process of mastering yourself parallels wrestling with the Lord in the process of mastering reality. And the three steps of mastering reality are mastering yourself, mastering reality, and seeking the Lord. And when you see this for yourself, so that's the third step, that's the choose. That's the step that's outside of time, we would call seeking the Lord. Or just trusting that it works and not caring why or how, just believing that it works. Or faith, whatever you want to call it. And when you see this for yourself, you see it in the behavior of people, that it's unpredictable. It doesn't proceed as the data set predicts it should. And you observe this to be true in reality as well, that even though we can measure all the particles and have everything under surveillance, and we should be able to predict things, but we can't. Reality has a life of its own, and no matter what the data set says it should do, it does something completely unexpected and unbelievable. So when you see this and you know this is true, but you also know that it can't be explained logically, then you realize that we've already won. It's impossible, ridiculous, but it's true, or else we couldn't be knowing any truth. We couldn't be perceiving these things. We couldn't have a book like the Bible if things are as bad as they seem. And the world is this evil, wicked place, and Satan is the Lord of this world. Then we shouldn't be perceiving the truth. We wouldn't have the Bible. So we've already won, somehow, impossibly, inexplicably. We've already succeeded. But how can we know for sure that we've won? Boom, you're back in the illusion, back in the virtual environment, back in time, back in why. When you need to know for sure, you need the data. You need it in ones and zeros, in black and white. That's the binary consciousness. And you are believing in physicality. You need to know for sure why. A watched pot never boils. A watched pot never boils. Something to that. So the game is physicality, time. And that is our problem. Not people or power or money or anything else. It's physicality itself. The physics of the game is the problem. And we can't wrestle with physicality on the physical level. But that's what the game actually is. The way the game works, or seems to work, at least, but we also know that nothing is ever what it seems, but we are told that it is the Saturn-Moon matrix. Saturn equals time, the moon equals the image. So you sacrifice time in order to bring forth the image. You sacrifice time in order to manifest something in physicality, in the illusion. And the reason the moon represents the image, physicality, is because in my model, where you are in the well, at the bottom of the well or a tube, the tube from top to bottom represents a continuum, proceeding from all possibility, no limitation, to increasing physicality as you descend, more and more limitation, more and more time, more physical but less real as you descend. And if you were in the inside of a tube, you would see a circle of light at either end of the tube. So the sun and the moon, even though from our perspective might be right next to each other in the sky, they really represent up and down. The sun is the analog of the source of all energy, all information, the single point of emanation. And the moon is the analog of the sink, or collector, or drain, the single point of dissipation or loss. So, if you want to be the greatest at anything or master any practice in this reality, you must sacrifice time in order to manifest that image. And the more time you sacrifice, the greater the manifestation of that intention will be. So, as an example, let's say your intent is to master a musical instrument. You intend to be the greatest guitar player in the realm. And we will juxtapose 3 different people with the same intent, but offering 3 different magnitudes of sacrifice to Saturn. The first individual, he is in love with a woman who doesn't notice him. But he notices that this woman loves musicians, specifically great guitar players. So this man conceives in his heart that he will become the greatest guitar player in the world in order to win her heart. So he enters into a covenant with Saturn. That he will sacrifice 1 hour each day practice, and each 7th day, $50 to an instructor for a lesson representing 3 additional hours of labor in exchange for the musical ability he desires. 1 hour a day, each 7th day, $50, representing 3 additional hours labor. And so even though he honors and keeps this covenant, he does not become the greatest guitar player in the world, because his will is divided. And he does not know himself. He thinks he wants to play guitar, but he really just desires the affection of this woman. And he isn't consciously aware of this contradiction. So his will is weak, unfocused, and he never surpasses an amateur level of mastery of guitar. He experiences a level of manifestation exactly equivalent to the 1 hour a day he sacrifices to Saturn. The second individual. The second individual worships the great guitar players of the past, and his greatest desire is to bask in the same glory as his idol. Even though he's too embarrassed to even mentally verbalize it, he wants to be even better than his idol, the greatest. And so he enters into a covenant with Saturn. And even though he can't offer any money because he doesn't have a job, he promises to sacrifice every spare hour he has. 8 hours a day, every day. Every morning before school and all afternoon and at night after school. And other than the time he must spend on school and the minimal required participation with family and friends and his girlfriend, every minute he can slip away, he's practicing guitar. and he's really determined to spend 8 hours a day sacrificing to the guitar. And so this individual doesn't become the best guitar player in the world. He's not the master. But over the next 20 years, he becomes pretty fucking great at guitar. He shreds. He knows the scales up and down, back to front, and he wails. But there's quite a few other guitar players on the scene that are as good as he is. Now the third individual. The third individual wants to be the master, the greatest of all time. So totally that he's never even stopped to think about why. And even though he'd never tell anyone, in his deepest secret thoughts, he believes he's already the greatest of all time. And these idiots haven't even realized it yet. Even though he would never say it out loud to anyone, in his secret thoughts, he thinks, I'm better than the Beatles. I'm better than Mozart. I'm better than Shakespeare. I make Led Zeppelin look like the fucking monkeys. I am the greatest of all time. And these idiots just haven't realized it yet. And he laughs to himself. And he doesn't make any formal contract at all. By the way, but what everyone else really thinks of this guy is that this dude's an absolute nut bar. He's insane. That's what everyone really thinks. He's a fucking nut bar. This dude's a psychopath. He says, I am the greatest of all time, and someday everyone will know it. And I don't care how long it takes. I don't give a fuck how long it takes. I don't give a fuck what I have to do. Nothing else matters. Why? I don't fucking know why, and I don't give a fuck why. I'm the greatest of all time. And his mom is like, Billy, it's time for school. He's the GOAT. That's his name, Billy. She's like, Billy, it's time for school. And he's like, all right, Mom, coming in a minute. And he keeps playing. And half an hour later, she calls him again. You're late now, Billy. And he's like, all right, I'm coming, Mom. No, now. He's like, fine. And he runs downstairs, runs out the door, and he goes right around the back of the house and waits for his mom to leave and sneaks right back in and plays all day. And in the afternoon, his girlfriend comes over. And she's like, you promised you'd take me out to dinner tonight. You promised you'd take me on a date. And he's like, all right, babe, give me 15 minutes. All right, I'm coming. He keeps playing. And she's like, if you don't stop playing right now, I'm breaking up with you. He keeps playing. He skips work. He loses his job. His girlfriend leaves him. His parents kick him out. He gets kicked out of school, but somehow it doesn't seem to matter. He gets by somehow and just keeps on playing. And somehow with this third individual, it's almost like somehow he doesn't even have to spend the time. It's like somehow, magically, he really already is the greatest of all time. And even though everyone else doesn't consciously recognize it at first, subconsciously, they know he's already the greatest of all time also. It's almost like even when he first started learning guitar and had no skill, even though the technicality and polish wasn't there, looking back, it's like from the very beginning, he was doing something brand new. There was something so strikingly original about his style that by pioneering it, he was necessarily already the greatest, the master of the craft. Looking back, it appears he was always the greatest of all time, and he never had to spend the time. So, in the Saturn-Moon matrix, even though the game seems like everyone gets a certain allotted amount of time to divide amongst different pursuits according to the priority of his desire, and he will manifest the image of a reality corresponding to how he spends his time. If we observe the masters very closely, like the third individual, it seems like time must be an illusion. And actually, we are just expending energy or attention focused by our will. Because all the time, your attention is on something. You're paying your attention, not time. You're not paying time. You're paying attention. It's an illusion. Now, you might say, that's not true. A lot of the time, I'm just sitting in front of the TV or the computer or at work or whatever. But I'm not actually paying attention to it. I'm not actually paying attention to anything. But you are. You are paying attention. You are transferring your energy, your attention to someone else, towards someone else's will. That's what entertainment is, black magic. Because these people, these black magicians, they figured out that time is an illusion. So there's actually, people think, I don't want to spend all my time in this pursuit practicing guitar, but they realize actually it's an illusion, and there's actually nothing you can do with time other than sacrifice it. It's actually all you can do with it, because it's just energy, an allotment of energy. So they say if these people are going to divide it and waste it everywhere, we might as well collect it all and use it for our will, since they don't even know what it's for. They can't even focus their attention. So they're wasting it. So let's build a giant collecting mechanism called the Teli. And that's what entertainment is. Art and entertainment are actually opposites. I used to think they were synonyms. They lead us to believe that they're the same thing. But art and entertainment are actually opposites. Art is an attempt to communicate truth above the limitations of language, to transcend the inherent false, the limitations somehow, to go to a higher level outside of time and communicate truth somehow. And entertainment is the opposite. Its only goal is to deceive you as long as possible, to collect as much of your attention as possible. Art's goal is to speak as little as possible to communicate the greatest amount of truth. Entertainment wants to keep your attention for as long as it possibly can without ever delivering truth, to keep you believing it's always just around the next corner. With black magic, money makes the magic happen. It's always a net loss of energy. It always has to extract energy from someone else. Every purpose of Satan, of the environment, is parasitic. It requires a sacrifice of innocence or of money or pain, and it pays less than it takes to the practitioner. It's always a net loss, negative. Whereas every true purpose is like a good seed, a fruitful plant. It is a net positive. It creates energy out of nowhere, out of nothing, out of light and water alone. It materializes out of nowhere, miraculously. And it's like an endless fountain of energy into reality. Every true and fruitful purpose. So it's like, even though everything is subject to time and decay and the laws of the universe, our will is so powerful, our imagination, that when it is hyper-focused like a laser, undivided, it literally warps time. It warps the fabric of reality around it. It bends the spoon effortlessly. But a watched pot never boils. You can't hold on to it too tightly. You've got to give it room to breathe. You've got to let the tool do the work for you. You don't care how it does it. You don't even really pay attention. You don't need to know why or micromanage it, because you just know it works, and that's all that matters. It's none of your business. It's like walking into the control room of a hydroelectric power plant and you have no idea what anything does. You have no training. You've never seen any of it before in your life. And you just see all the thousands of flashing lights and buttons of levers, and you just want to push all the buttons and levers and fuck everything up by being a control freak. Instead of letting this team of 10 guys who have trained their whole life, specifically trained for this one task and know it like the back of their hand, they live for it, it's all they were created for, it's their true purpose, and they can do it effortlessly. You're trying to micromanage everything instead of just letting them do their jobs. Just leave the control room up to them. That's why they're there. So you can't hold on to it too tightly. You gotta be like oil. Let it be oil. Let it be slippery. Let it be shiny and beautiful, but let it be slippery. Don't hold on to it too tightly. Give it room to change and move for you and work for you. A watched pot never boils. Because we have a ceiling to our comprehension, to our perception. But the Lord or God or whatever is good is outside of time, outside of the system, and he can look down and know it completely. So he says, dude, whatever you think's going to work, whatever you're seeing, it's not going to work. You're not seeing it right from inside. Like, just tell me what you want, and I'll tell you what to do. I can see the whole thing. Stop trying to micromanage everything. What do you want it to do? Just tell me what you want. I'm up here. I'm outside the whole thing. I can see exactly what you should do. And don't worry about if it makes sense to you or if you think it's not going to seem like it's going to work to you. Just do it. I can see what's going to happen. Don't wrestle against your own arm, you know? Don't try and slap a hot dog out of your own hand. But when we look at they, it seems like you can only get control of a level of reality from the level above. Like you can only control action from thought, and you can only control thought from emotion, etc. So I think maybe this parallels the levels of command in the reality. So the people whose laser focus was set on money instead only got fame. Like these rappers and artists that look rich, but they're really just kept men servants and maid servants. Very well kept, but still, they never actually get a hold of the money. It only looks like they do. It's an illusion. And the ones whose sole desire was power, they only ever get money. But they never actually ever get a hold of any real power. And the ones that the only desire of their heart was solely focused on understanding and knowledge to lord their unearned wisdom over other men, to elevate themselves to 11, elevate themselves. The ones whose only imagination of their heart was knowledge, they only ever achieve power and never taste wisdom. Only the powers of deception and the illusion of wisdom. But what happens if you don't want anything? What if your laser focus is solely on focus itself? Your only intent is to perfect your intent. All you want with laser focus is to want nothing. Pure purpose, pure dance, pure flow state. I would argue that that is what we might imperfectly call seeking the Lord and seeking the truth. and seeking wisdom.
So you say we are in the Y machine, we are in Y, but Y is what is not. And this certainly is something, isn't it?